last night and the reference to them by the president. You don't expect to hear a headline that there are too many bees, but the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew have said in their World's Plants and Fungi 2020 report that some cities, like London, now have too many hives, that there isn't pollen to support the bee population. Phil Stevenson, professor there as a research scientist at Kew. Phil, is this really a phenomenon that private hives, if you like, are just sort of leading to overpopulation?
I'm afraid it is, actually, yes. I mean, this is one element of a very much broader report looking at the plants and fungi across the world. And one thing we found when we were assessing urban ecosystems and looking particularly at London was that in some areas there were more hives than we predicted could be supported by the available floral resources, the available pollen and nectar. And the thing that worries us is that this could spill over and mean that there's too much competition for other bee species that are also trying to feed off the same plants.
And what does that just leads to battles between the different bees?
Yeah, honeybees are actually pretty good at foraging. That's why they're so successful, and that's why we managed to harvest lots of honey from them. And I think that we need to actually manage these urban spaces so that they can provide for all of these bee species. Just to give you an idea, in Kew Gardens alone, we've now recorded over 100 different species of wild bee. And so we must think much more broadly about biodiversity when we're looking at conservation than just single species. And I think oversimplification of messaging has perhaps pushed people towards saving honeybees when we should be thinking more widely. But what I would also like to say is that honeybees are a fantastic animal. They're wonderful because they provide pollination services. They're a great engagement for people to have positive interactions with nature, which is a really important part of that relationship. So we're not demonizing honeybees here. We just want to encourage people to do more to provide for these bees. So imagine if every Londoner planted one flower tomorrow, that would be 9 million more flowers in London. So that's the kind of message that we want to get across.
That's interesting. And we should obviously not think that there's an overpopulation of bees outside of the cities. I mean, we've been hearing a lot about bee shortages for many years. Just very briefly.
Absolutely. No, I think but we do need to think much more widely and think much more of wild bees and all the other beneficial insects that we need to support in our ecosystems. And that all comes down to the plant life that supports them.
Professor Phil Stevenson, interesting finding. Thank you so much from Kew Gardens. Right, we are coming up to a couple of minutes to